to the release of Chinese dissident Wang Dan. And ABC's Ann Compton will join us live from South America, where President Clinton is attending the Summit of the Americas.
Mergers are a big story in this morning's papers, and coming up we'll tell you how the return of merger mania is changing the look of Main Street America across America. We'll also get a preview of day 2 of the NFL Draft. Mike Tirico will be back with us to talk about the draft. So as always, we have a lot to get to this morning. We begin this morning with an event in China, which the U.S. has long sought the release of one of the top leaders of the Tiananmen Square protest. Wang Dan's mother said he was set free today and is en route to the U.S. before President Clinton is set to visit China. ABC's Deborah Wong reports.
He was only 21 years old when he became one of China's most outspoken dissidents in the spring of 1989. When government soldiers crushed the democracy movement, Wang Dan was at the top of the government's most wanted list, and he ended up in prison. After his first release in 1993, he continued to warn that China had not changed. To release 1 or 2 prisoners, he said, does not mean the human rights situation has improved. His outspokenness eventually landed him back behind bars, this time sentenced to 11 years for trying to overthrow the government. The evidence? Essays he wrote advocating democracy.
U.S. officials say they have been pushing for Wang Dan's release, and it appears to have been time to generate goodwill ahead of President Clinton's trip to China in June.
It is a strategy that wins points from China's critics, and at the same time removes the only sources of dissent left within China's midst. Deborah Wong, ABC News, Hong Kong.
We want to get the White House's reaction to all this. President Clinton is in Santiago, Chile, meeting with other leaders of the Western Hemisphere. The summit ends today. Ann Compton of ABC News has been following the president there. Ann, any coincidence that the president's going to be visiting China in 2 months, and now 2 months earlier, here's this release?
Well, Bill, it would be pretty naive of us to think that there were not. This morning, the White House saying that this is a positive sign from China, and certainly something that the U.S. has been urging in advance of June, when President Clinton would become the first American president to set foot in Beijing since the Tiananmen uprising. On another side, here in Chile and in South America, the Americans hold out far less hope for Cuba. There are 34 Democratic elected leaders gathered here in Chile for the summit. Fidel Castro not among them. Although several leaders here now are telling President Clinton they think Castro ought to be included. Most significant is Canada's Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, who is not only the host of the next summit, but he has told President Clinton he is going to go to Cuba. The U.S. officials say that they have found by experience that government-to-government constructive engagement with Castro simply doesn't produce any positive changes. And Americans are saying if Cuba is going to come to any of these hemispheric clubs, then it better be as a democracy. Bill?
All right, Ann Compton with the president in Santiago, Chile. Thanks for joining us this morning, Ann. Robin?
And staying overseas, the Northern Ireland peace agreement got a big boost this weekend with an endorsement from the leading Protestant party, the Ulster Unionists. ABC's Jim Wooten has that story from Belfast.
If the Ulster Unionists had said no, any chance for peace in Northern Ireland would have vanished. Instead, as this morning's headlines attest, the opportunity still survives.
This party, more than any other, I think, has helped to create that opportunity. The door is open for the rest of the community to come through it with us.
The Ulster Unionist David Trimble, a Protestant, Prime Minister if the deal goes through, politically dead if it doesn't, and so far scant encouragement from Sinn Féin and the Catholics.
The days of Unionist domination are gone, and are gone forever.
From Sinn Féin's gathering in Dublin, the familiar battle cry of the IRA. No surrender and no British presence in the north. One island, one Ireland, and nothing less.
The troubles have gone on so long now, for 30 bloody years. Who knows the difference between political rhetoric and real politics? The critical bottom line on this Sunday morning in Belfast is this. The most influential Protestants have offered a resounding yes to peace. The Catholics have not yet said no. In Northern Ireland, that's progress, sort of. This is Jim Wooten for Good Morning America Sunday in Belfast.
An ancient and fragile piece of cloth went on public display in Turin, Italy today, where crowds flocked to see it. It's the famed Shroud of Turin, which Christians believe to be Christ's burial cloth. This will be the first public display of the shroud for the last 20 years. Just last year, it was rescued from a fire which heavily damaged the San Giovanni Cathedral. And today is Easter for the world's 250 million Orthodox Christians. Easter Mass was celebrated this morning in Jerusalem, where worshipers gathered excuse me, at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Here in New York, thousands of people came together for a candlelight resurrection service during the first hours of Easter morning.
When we come back, a remarkable story about a father who raised 2 daughters and is now accused of kidnapping them as toddlers. But first, my main man Bill takes a look at the nation's weather.
In the Sunday forecast, get out your umbrellas. Low pressure expected to produce some showers and thunderstorms and some severe weather from the mid-Atlantic states to the central Gulf Coast. Showers are also likely from the Ohio Valley to southern New England and from northern Rockies to the northern plains. It's going to be warm across the south today with highs in the 70s and 80s. Much of the plains and the northeast will see highs in the 60s, and in New England it's going to be cooler. Highs there only in the 50s. Now, for more on your local weather forecast, check out after the show abcnews.com, on the World Wide Web, or on AOL. And GMA Sunday will be right back after this.
Good Morning America Sunday's weather report is brought to you by Oil of Olay. Marie Claire listed it as one of the secrets to perfect skin. New Woman reported that it was beautifully...
About the latest severe weather in the south. Parts of Tennessee are awash in flooding, which has left 2 people dead. The Nashville area is already trying to clean up from considerable tornado damage earlier this week. Much of Tennessee remains under a flash flood warning, with rain expected to continue through tomorrow. And a harrowing flight for many passengers on a Tower Air flight from Paris to New York. The Boeing 747 hit severe turbulence over the Atlantic, sending food and glasses flying through the cabin. The flight did make it to New York's Kennedy Airport. 2 people remain hospitalized with injuries. 18 others were treated and released.
An update now on that shipment of Vietnam-era napalm. Now, the train carrying the napalm has made a U-turn. It had stopped in Kansas City on its way to Indiana, where a company changed its mind about recycling it. So now the napalm is headed back to California until the Navy finds someone else to recycle it. Now, a story about a Florida socialite who faces charges of kidnapping his own daughters. He went by the name Dr. William Martin in Florida, but his real name is Stephen Fagan, and he was only just arrested for allegedly taking the girls almost 20 years ago. ABC's Bill Ritter has the story.
Extradited to Massachusetts, where he will be arraigned for parental kidnapping, Stephen Fagan has led the life of a fugitive for nearly 2 decades. 19 years ago, during a bitter divorce, he allegedly kidnapped his own daughters Lisa and Rachel, moved to Florida, told them their mother was dead, and changed his name. Now, prosecutors say he could spend the rest of his life in prison.
He's in a jail cell right now, which is where he belongs.
The daughters, who are now adults, have not yet been reunited with their mother. But one of them says she's on her father's side and wants him released.
They will do anything they possibly can to assist him and hopefully secure his immediate release and reestablish the family unit that's been in existence from their birth.
As bizarre as this case may seem, it is not unusual. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children reports that more than 13,000 children are abducted by one of their parents every year. Later this week, Stephen Fagan will be formally charged with stealing his children from their mother. Bill Ritter, ABC News, New York.
Much of Washington gets back to work tomorrow. President Clinton arrives home from Chile early in the morning, and the Senate comes back from the Easter recess. House members return on Tuesday. The Supreme Court will also be in session. It's hearing several cases concerning sexual harassment, including one which could have an impact on whether Paula Jones wins her appeal. ABC's Tim O'Brien reports.
The court will be using the case of Kimberly Ellerth to answer this question. Must a plaintiff in a sexual harassment suit prove actual job detriment in order to win? Ellerth got promotions and pay raises, but she says constant sexual harassment by a supervisor made working at the Chicago office of Burlington Industries unbearable.
At one point when I was not giving in to his advancements, he made the comment that he could make life very easy for me or very hard for me at Burlington.
Ellerth says she eventually quit rather than give in to the boss's sexual advances. She's now suing Burlington for sexual harassment. Company lawyers will ask the Supreme Court this week to throw the case out because Ellerth cannot show she suffered any tangible job detriment. Just as a federal judge threw out Paula Jones' sexual harassment case against the president earlier this month. It is one of 4 major sexual harassment cases before the Supreme Court this term as the justices try to define just what sexual harassment is and when it violates federal law. The ramifications could affect not just Paula Jones, but virtually everyone in the workforce. Tim O'Brien, ABC News at the Supreme Court.
Paula Jones did get a show of support from a group which until now hasn't really taken sides. The National Organization for Women says it may file a brief soon, a legal brief, in support of Paula Jones with the court that is hearing her appeal. Now, the Paula Jones case and the independent counsel's investigation of the president will be part of the show later on this week. Later on this morning on This Week with Sam Roberts. Sam, boy, I got it. Let me get this. Sam Roberts. No, I used to know a guy named Sam Roberts. Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts. Half of that team, not Sam Roberts, but Sam Donaldson, is joining us now. Good morning, Sam. And if I get your name right, Sam, I'll always remember.
Bill, I have these mornings myself sometimes. It's good to see that others younger suffer the same fate.
Well, I will never call you Sam Roberts again, at least this morning. You have something of a scoop this morning, Sam. The attorney for Linda Tripp will be on your show.
That's right. Anthony Zaccanini is joining us. He hasn't spoken publicly on television about the case. He is Linda Tripp's attorney. And as you know, Linda Tripp is the woman who first came forward with the allegations that there had been this affair between Monica Lewinsky and President Clinton. She's at the center of this. It is said that she taped some 20 hours of conversations that she's had with Monica Lewinsky, back before the story broke, of course, in which it is claimed that Monica Lewinsky said, yes, in fact, she'd had a sexual relationship with the president.
And it's those tapes, Sam, actually, that has caused not as much discussion as the Monica Lewinsky affair, but some discussion, certainly among people who have friends that say, wait a minute, how do I know my friends aren't tape recording my conversation? And in a dozen states at least, it's illegal to tape someone's conversation without both parties consenting to it.
That's right. There are 2-party consent states. Maryland happens to be one of them, where Linda Tripp was, and there's some controversy, as you know, as to whether she ought to be prosecuted. The Maryland authorities say at the moment they're not going to move forward on that. They're going to wait until Kenneth Starr's investigation is finished to see whether they want to do something about that. But you know, it's very interesting. If there were not these tapes that are there and that Kenneth Starr apparently has heard and has looked at, then we would have the president's word that there was no sexual relationship, and Monica Lewinsky has given a deposition swearing there was no sexual relationship, and I suppose that would end the matter. But there are these tapes in which Ms. Lewinsky apparently says they had a flaming crime of some sort, and that forms the basis of the independent counsel's investigation.
And how much does an apparent book deal affect her credibility here, do you think, Sam?
Well, I don't know. I think it's the mind of each viewer and each reader. I mean, if you say the motive for doing something is to make personal profit, well, I think that means that you can have a little suspicion about why the person is coming forward. But at the bottom line, Bill, the point is it true or not? People profit from books and movies and all of that from true stories. And we say, well, that's wonderful. So it's not the question of whether there's a book deal. It's a question of whether the truth is being told in this case and whether the independent counsel is going to find evidence that it's not.
You're also dealing with another interesting tertiary issue here in the whole sex scandal involving the Washington officials. Secret Service agents, how much are they going to be forced to tell about what they see in the White House?
Well, we're going to discuss that with Governor Frank Keating of Oklahoma, who has experience in law enforcement, and with Walter Dellinger, the former Solicitor General, in this administration. The administration is now trying to assert a new privilege. You know, you've heard of executive privilege that the presidents have asserted, although it's not found in the Constitution. And this new privilege is that the Secret Service agents that guard a president must and cannot be compelled to testify about alleged crimes that they've witnessed. Well, that's a breathtaking assertion, and we're going to discuss it this morning, later today on This Week.
Okay, Sam, as always, we'll see that later, and we'll see you next week.
With Cokie Roberts.
With Cokie Roberts, not Cokie Donaldson, and not Sam Roberts. Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts. I'll get it right. I promise, Sam.
Okay, Bill.
Thanks for joining us.
When
we return, healing and hatred. While victims of the Oklahoma City bombing are being remembered this morning, some say the threat of anti-government violence is on the rise. Stay with us.
Good Morning America Sunday is brought to you by Puffs.
Today, April 19th, is the 3rd anniversary of the Oklahoma City bombing. And this morning, a ceremony to remember the victims is underway at the site of the bombing, where 168 people died. But today, as many of you know, is also the anniversary of the raid by federal agents on the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. And there's an increase in anti-government groups on the internet calling for acts of terrorism to be carried out today. So across the country, law enforcement officials are on heightened alert. And one group that tracks extremists and race-based terrorism says there is reason to be concerned. Mark Podak of the Southern Poverty Law Center joins us now from Montgomery, Alabama. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Robin.
We appreciate you joining us. What is the reason for the rise in the anti-government movement?
Well, I think there are a number of reasons. I think the movement has been organizing and using, to some extent, mainstream issues very efficiently. I think also the approach of the year 2000 is driving a lot of these groups. Many of them are in a kind of millennial frenzy, really believing that the Battle of Armageddon is coming, and that it's incumbent on them to start that battle, to prepare the world for the return of Christ. I also think that the internet and other forums like that are really driving the organizing capabilities of these groups.
What type of growth are you seeing?
Well, we've seen a very large growth in race-based hate groups. That is to say, groups like the Klan and neo-Nazi groups, racist skinheads, and so on. The militia patriot movement is also really steaming right along. And there's also quite a large growth in common law courts, that sort of activity, threats to judges and so on. But probably most worrying in all of this is what we've really seen is a very large increase in the number of terrorist incidents, domestic terrorist conspiracies in the 3 years since Oklahoma.
And how has it really evolved since the bombing 3 years ago?
Well, what's happened is we have seen a real spate of quote-unquote leaderless resistance, small cells of people who decide to act on their own and do such things or attempt to do such things as blow up IRS buildings, attack National Guard facilities, Army bases, armories, plot to assassinate politicians and civil rights leaders and federal judges and that kind of thing. There has just been a plethora of these plots, really about one major terrorist conspiracy a month, more or less, since Oklahoma. This is a pace this country hasn't seen since at least the late 60s or the early 70s, when there was quite a bit of terror from the left. And it's really, the scale of it is something we've not seen anything like. Attacks contemplating the deaths of thousands, and in one case even tens of thousands of people.
I know there was even a plot against your center, and there have been a number of arrests made. What have law enforcement officials learned since, say, what happened in Waco?
Well, I think that Oklahoma in particular was a wake-up call not only to all Americans, but to law enforcement in particular. Virtually every major federal law enforcement agency and most state law enforcement agencies have task forces or other units assigned directly to combat the threat, to assess the threat. So they have learned, as we all have learned, that there is a real political movement in this country to, in effect, overthrow the government, that it involves in a major way the use of terror, and that this is something that all of us need to be aware of and take measures against. We've been extremely fortunate in that law enforcement has done a terrific job in the last 3 years. Almost every one of these plots has been aborted at the last minute by law enforcement. And the attention given these plots is much, much higher. The FBI currently is investigating over 900 domestic terrorism cases, as compared to 100 during around the time of Oklahoma City.
900 as compared to 100 before what happened in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, those are the right numbers, and it's quite extraordinary. And to some small extent, of course, there are many more people looking at these kinds of things, so you're going to get more cases. But really, those numbers are driven by what's happening out there in all 50 states of this country.
Thank you, Mark. It is indeed a sad day in Oklahoma City for the families and survivors of the bombing 3 years ago today. 9:02 Oklahoma City time is when the bombing occurred 3 years ago. Hundreds injured, 168 people killed. But there is some good news. More funding has been pledged to build a memorial for the victims. GMA Sunday will continue right after this.
You say either, and I say either. You say
Sounds like us. This weekend, another crop of new movies is clamoring for your attention at the box office. Sometimes an intriguing title is really all it takes to make you want to see a movie.
Tomato. But as Lori Hibbert reports, when American movies head overseas, their titles can become, well, let's say, intriguing in unintended ways.
Yes! What's in a name? Well, plenty if you answer to Mr. Cat Poop. That's what the Oscar-winning As Good As It Gets was renamed for its Hong Kong release.
I don't quite get how that's a compliment for me.
Like it or not, changing the name of a movie for foreign distribution is common practice. Asian audiences in particular prefer a more descriptive title to let them know what the film is about. So the real creativity comes in finding a title that will sell.
Every movie title has to be chock full of meaning. Very often they're very idiomatic. And so when you translate that verbatim overseas in another language, it doesn't really make any sense at all.
Like The English Patient. Faithfully translated, it could have become The Sick Englishman.
I don't know what that means.
Neither would the Asian audiences, according to Hong Kong distributors. The new name? Don't Ask Me Who I Am.
I don't know what that means.
The Full Monty, a phrase unfamiliar even to American audiences, didn't stand a chance in Asia, so the descriptive translation they settled on was 6 Naked Pigs.
Now you're talking.
So why would U.S. movie studios agree to some of these ludicrous titles?
Movie companies are happy to let foreign distributors rename their films because they think the foreign distributors know what will sell in that country, and the bottom line is selling the movie.
Some films don't need a title change to make big bucks. For Titanic, the name said it all. As for Mr. Cat Poop, I mean, As Good As It Gets, the Chinese title doesn't describe anything. It's simply the Cantonese pronunciation of the main character's last name. What would Melvin say to that?
Hate. I'm using the word hate here.
This is Lori Hibbert for Good Morning America Sunday.
Here are a couple others. In Cantonese, Nixon became the big liar.
Oh, big shot.
And in Chinese, Fargo became mysterious murder in snowy cream. I wonder what they'd call Wide World of Sports. How about big golf balls?
GMA Sunday continues after this. Help me, please. Tomorrow, Wall Street will be watching to see if this Monday brings yet another mega merger. 3 major banking and financial mergers were announced on the past 2 Mondays, and analysts say more consolidation is on the way. Not since the high-flying 80s have so many companies come together under the premise that bigger is better. And as Bob Jameson reports, all this merger mania is threatening to make every main street in the U.S. look like the same street.
Like almost every other small city in America, Middletown, New York now looks like almost every other small city in America. One by one over the last 2 decades, most of the homegrown businesses that once made downtown distinctive closed. What Middletown now has is Walmart, and Home Depot, and Kmart, and Staples, and Circuit City, the usual list of megastores found in almost every mall.
This was a very busy section of town.
Retired businessman Marvin Cohen runs Middletown's Historical Society.
There isn't a local drugstore left in town here, is there?
Not a local one that I know of.
What did this used to be?
This used to be Tompkins Department Store.
There are only a few local businesses left downtown. Lounsbury Sporting Goods, run by the same family for half a century, has survived by emphasizing it's not a megastore.
They do things better than us in a lot of ways.
But Bob Jr. and his father do some things better. Their customers get more than fishing tackle for their money.
At times it feels like a community business because people come in here and they actually feel like they're part of it. They've grown up here.
What has the community lost with the arrival of these big chains from outside?
Little family drugstore in a corner you can sit down and get a conversation, along with whatever you needed that day.
Until now in Middletown, about the only business that hasn't found itself under assault
from a big national company is the local bank. And it maintains its connections to the community in what is a throwback to a time when big wasn't necessarily better. Orange County Trust has served its customers for more than 100 years, even during the Depression.
You enjoying the weather out there, even though it's raining? Oh, yeah.
It's a bank where your face is ID enough to cash a check. There's no fee for using their ATMs. Honesty and integrity, not just assets, count.
It's very easy when you're a community bank to make judgment calls, to process loans, because you have a gut feeling. You know that you've known the customer, and when you make the loan, the customer is going to make each payment.
We're here this morning really to announce the coming together of these two companies.
But with the recent wave of proposed mega mergers in the banking industry, will banking be the next business to look alike across the country? Citicorp and Travelers would make the biggest merger ever. Nations Bank and Bank America would make the biggest bank in the United States. Bank One and First Chicago would make the 5th largest. And some worry they're too big, that if one failed, it would make the savings and loan bailout look like small change. And there are worries about the impact on consumers.
Too much political and economic concentration. And we're looking at the enormous political power here in Washington of these giant financial conglomerates fighting against rules that require community reinvestment, that require more respect for consumers, that require attention to small business loans.
Since bank restructuring and mergers began a decade ago, studies show consumers haven't always benefited. New York City, for example, has lost 345 bank branches and 55,000 jobs. Nationwide, ATM surcharges increased by 58% last year, and big banks charge the most. Ralph Nader fears for community banks.
There's a possibility that predatory practices by these giant conglomerates can squeeze out the smaller banks.
But NYU economist Lawrence White disagrees.
A lot of the evidence shows that small and medium-sized banks can survive if they are prepared to hustle, pay attention to detail, really pay attention to their clientele in a way that that larger, more bureaucratic bank has more difficulty doing.
White and others say mergers in the banking industry are far from over, and banks aren't alone. The movie theater chains Sony's Lowe's and Cineplex Odeon are merging. Back in Middletown at the century-old Ayers and Galloway Hardware, owner Carol Leeson believes that when big operators arrive, more is lost than a little local business.
I get so annoyed sometimes when people talk about these big corporations that come in from the outside because I don't feel they're part of the community at all. They're not involved in the community. They come in, they take their profit, and they go away. And I think that strips the community.
A community that has already lost much of what made the small city of Middletown unique. This is Bob Jameson for Good Morning America Sunday.
Times are changing. When we come back, the odds that a teenager you know may be infected with HIV are shocking, but a bold new program hopes to reduce those odds. Stay with us. This week, a lot of us griped about having to fork over our hard-earned cash to pay the tax man, but not Gudrun Hertzgaard. The patriotic Minnesotan donated $3,000 to help the government pay down the national debt. Last year, Americans donated nearly $1 million to help out the government, but there's still a long way to go to pay off the debt.
If you want to get along with me.
What a staggering statistic. The problem of adolescent HIV infection is now so troublesome, the White House recently called on federal agencies to come up with new ways to stop its spread. But other groups are also looking for some solutions. Tomorrow, New York City's Montefiore Medical Center, along with a coalition of other New York hospitals and health centers, begins an innovative new program aimed at the young.
Hundreds of teenagers turned up earlier this week to hear about the new program.
We welcome everybody from everywhere. It's all about unity.
It's called HIV, Live With It, Get Tested, and it encourages young people between the ages of 13 and 21 who may be at risk of HIV to get tested and to seek medical treatment if needed. Peer counselors are used to reach the teenagers, and they say there are more than enough good reasons for them to get involved.
Probably about 99% of my friends are having sex, and I'm pretty sure more than 50% of them are not having safe sex.
I should be able to go out there and educate my peers
That's important because if a young person, they're not going to listen to an adult as well as they're going to listen to their own friend.
Joining us now is the director of the Adolescent AIDS program at New York City's Montefiore Medical Center, Dr. Donna Futterman. Good morning, Donna.
Good morning.
I saw this story, I read the research, and I could say, whoa, wait a minute. I thought we were solving this problem. I thought teens today were practicing safe sex. It's not happening.
Well, the news is teenagers really are at risk for HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases. Sex is a part of life for teenagers. It always has been. And safe sex is something that's very difficult. That behavior change is not easy. We've worked against cigarette smoking for so many years, and we see how hard it is to help people make those kind of changes.
But I think the average taxpayer is hearing you talk and say, wait a minute, didn't we spend millions of dollars on prevention? You know, I know in New York you see all these ads about, you know, wear a condom and practice safe sex, or wait until after you're married. What happened? Was it not working?
Well, it is working. We've made a difference. We've made tremendous progress in terms of increasing the rates of teenagers using condoms, but there's still missing pieces. We don't see in movies or TV shows good examples for kids. On a regular basis, actors, when people show having sex, how many of them bring a condom into that? So until it's normalized and part of everyday life and everyday culture, it's hard for teenagers to take those steps on their own.
What is this program you're doing? You're saying get tested. Of course, that implies that kids are having sex, which I guess the statistics certainly show. Let me just add a statistic here. Among sexually active 15 to 17-year-old women, 55% have had 2 or more partners, and 13% have had at least 6 partners and 1 more. 56% of young women, 73% of young men today have had intercourse by the age of 18. So getting tested is a real
Well, that's a fact, and what we also know is that every hour of every day a new young person is infected with HIV. So our program to promote HIV counseling and testing really has 2 goals. One is to use it as part of prevention to help kids learn to protect themselves, but the other is to help young people who are HIV positive know that there are programs out there, that there are doctors and programs who care for them. In this era of wonderful advances in medical treatment for HIV, it's so important that we find the kids and bring them into care, because this treatment can make such a difference in their lives.
All right, well, good luck with your program.
Thank you very much.
It might spread to other cities, you're hoping, I take it?
Yes, we're really hoping. We have a group lined up waiting to take this into other cities around the country as soon as we get the support to pay for that. Mostly this works on the effort of volunteers. The youth are the leading volunteers, and as the young man said, youth speaking to youth is what this is all about.
All right, Donna Futterman, good luck to you.
Thank you
for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right, when we come back, we will check in with ABC Sports' Mike Tirico for an update on the NFL draft and other sports news. GMA Sunday, we'll be right back after this.
Big church, I'm on my way, I'm making it. Big time. Big time. I got to make it show, yeah. Big time.
It is day 2 of this year's NFL draft. It's going to be another long day for ESPN's Mike Tirico covering the draft, but he's good to come in early like this and join us. Good morning, Mike.
If you can start early, right?
That's right, and start right here.
That's
Good Morning
right,
America
absolutely,
Sunday.
Rob.
We appreciate that. Ryan Leaf and Peyton Manning. Manning being the #1 pick. 1971, of course, 2 quarterbacks also going 1 and 2. One happening to be Peyton's father, Archie. So an exciting day, a proud day for the Manning family.
And this family has been so proud. If there's a perfect pedigree for a quarterback, it's Peyton Manning. He went to a great school, had great exposure, great player, the pedigree as we mentioned. And his dad has been with him every step of the way. Jim Moore, who's going to be his coach with Indianapolis, the Colts, the team that drafted him, tells a great story. When he was the New Orleans Saints coach, Archie played for New Orleans and was their radio broadcaster. Well, Peyton would come to practice. He was a high school little, whippersnapper. Well, Jim said, Peyton, let's see how good a quarterback you are. Put him in the huddle. He called a play, went out and ran a play with the players, who were the pros, when he was in high school. So he has lived up his entire life to this point to be an NFL quarterback, and he goes in as the first pick overall.
You know, and it's great that he stayed for his senior year at the University of Tennessee, and he's still the #1 pick. The #2 pick, Ryan Leaf, one of 3 underclassmen to go in the top 5. A little bit different kind of pedigree when it comes to comparing him to Manning.
Peyton Manning's the perfect everything you would think in a quarterback who's going to be out there and be, I guess, sold to the media and sold to the folks at Indianapolis. Ryan Leaf is a little more of a rebel. Now, that's not to say he's a guy who's out all night and he's causing trouble. He is a good guy, but he's really one of those gunslinger types. He's going to win a game by running around and making something happen. Peyton Manning's going to win a game by the book. That's their differences, and maybe they'll fit their cities and their teams. One to Indianapolis, and the gunslinger, the laid-back guy, to California, San Diego.
Why do we care about the top picks? Traditionally, they don't necessarily have a good career in the NFL.
Well, I know why they care, because they get obscene signing bonuses. So they'll be getting checks. Or I asked Charles Woodson, the Heisman Trophy winner from Michigan yesterday, I said, have you thought you're going to get a check? Somebody's going to hand you for about $3 or $4 million as a signing bonus? He said, yeah, I'm going to take care of my mom, and I'm going to take care of me. That's what he's going to do with his check. But why do we care? Because it's the way you have to build your team. Without stars, to get fans, to get luxury boxes sold, all the sweet stuff, you need the big names.
No one's hurting in the NBA as well. They got some money going on there. But difference this year, the Utah Jazz have the home court advantage throughout the playoffs. Difference.
You know what happened, Robin? This was the last Sunday in Michael Jordan's career that he woke up on a Sunday morning in the regular season. Everything's been built Michael Jordan's last everything, but Karl Malone in Utah and all the teams out west are going to be very tough final out if the Bulls get through the East.
All right. Thanks for being a team player and coming in early like this, Mike.
For you, the world.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Let's go from basketball now to baseball. Yesterday, Yankee Stadium, the house that Ruth built, celebrated its 75th birthday, but the venerable stadium was empty. It has been closed since last Monday when a 500-pound steel beam crashed onto a row of empty seats just hours before game time. Yankees owner George Steinbrenner has been saying for years that he wants a new stadium, and that had some fans wondering. Some people believe that Elvis is still alive and that the 1969 moon landing was staged in Arizona. This week, a conspiracy theory for sports fans. Why exactly did that beam fall in Section 22 of Yankee Stadium?
People are speculating all sorts of things. Number one is we don't think that George Steinbrenner would have done it at all. Wink, wink.
George Steinbrenner owns the New York Yankees, and the 75-year-old house that Ruth built is a house Steinbrenner once rebuilt, which made the folks at Comedy Central suspicious as well.
This latest incident only adds fuel to Steinbrenner's fiery push for a new stadium. Steinbrenner was unavailable for comment, however, because he was at Sears returning a blowtorch and a hacksaw.
You never know. I'm sure it wasn't him, but everything certainly fell into his lap.
But it could have fallen into their laps. The Toronto family was scheduled to sit right where the 500-pound steel chunk fell.
I checked our tickets, and sure enough, those were our seats.
Steinbrenner's office said he takes this matter very seriously and is thankful no one was hurt. He also made a promise to the Torontos.
Mr. Steinbrenner said, well, listen, if they want me to come sit with them, I'll come sit with them.
But will all fans feel that safe when they return to the stadium this Friday?
Maybe I'd look up a little bit and just wear a hat.
We have help coming.
But if you really like conspiracy theories, consider this.
We thought this might be a great final episode for Seinfeld.
Coincidence, I think.
No, what do you really think? What do you really think?
Oh, come on. That's just
It
gonna happen.
It happened.
But it's 75 years old, come on.
But it also serves Mr. Steinbrenner's interest. He wants to build some big stadium in Manhattan or something, right?
Right, as long as they stay here in New York, that's fine.
The Yankees,
he'll probably get it.
The Yankees will not go away from New York.
Can't.
I guarantee it. Of course, they said that about the Dodgers.
I'm putting that down. Bill Ritter says.
When we come back, 5 divas, 1 stage, and a whole lot of good vibes. We'll be right back.
Good Morning America Sunday is brought to you by MCI 5-cent Sundays.
We close this morning with a rare meeting. You might have it caught our attention, and we found it so moving, we thought it was worth reprising.
This past week here in New York City, several divas from the music industry came together for a pretty good cause and rocked the house at a concert organized by VH1. ABC's Farai Chideya takes a look at this extraordinary ensemble's performance.
I feel like a woman. They sang everything from country to conga, an unprecedented meeting of 5 divas. Gloria, Mariah, Shania, Selena, and the diva of all divas, Aretha. What brought these amazing ladies of song together? An effort to save music education in public schools.
It's so important, really, that we get back to basics. Music is definitely a basic and a must. What would the world be without music? So we've got to develop our musicians in the schools.
The number of students taking music has dropped sharply in the past 4 decades. Rescue mission in mind, the divas had the star-studded audience on its feet. and offered tributes to music education, both serious.
If it wasn't for music class in school, I think I would have been a dropout, so thank goodness for music class.
And humorous.
Scientific studies have proven that music education greatly increases children's basic math and reading ability. I mean, I don't know what happened to me, but...
VH1 organized the concert to benefit Save the Music, a program which has already donated over $1 million worth of instruments to schools. And this Diva concert raised yet another $750,000.
This is about making our children smarter. And I think everyone will agree that it's a win-win for the kids in this country and the adults who are going to have to live here.
School-age children aren't the only ones who can benefit from music education. Neurological studies show that even infants who listen to music can build brain capacity and can eventually do better in school.
Armed with this new information, parents across the country are now enrolling their toddlers in music appreciation classes.
Enrichment clearly makes a difference in brain development.
And earlier this year, Georgia Governor Zell Miller declared his intention to give every newborn baby a cassette of classical music. He's not the only high-powered political supporter of music education. President Clinton even donated a saxophone to Save the Music. But the point of this night was music, not politics. A surprise appearance by singer-songwriter Carole King brought the house down.
This is why we write songs. So you get people like this to sing them. And like this.
These naturally talented women are determined to make sure the next generation of divas gets their chance to shine, too. This is Farai Chidea for Good Morning America Sunday.
Such a feel-good evening. It was so cool when Carole King came out. You knew about the other divas being there, but she came out. It was marvelous. If you missed it, don't worry. VH1 will rebroadcast it this weekend.
I guess they're rebroadcasting it so people can see Mariah Carey's outfit again.
And her hair. That had it going on.
This is like the bake sale of the 90s, though, right? PTA
Absolutely.
used to put on bake sales for education. Now they have these big concerts.
And it's wonderful why they were doing it.
No, it's good cause. A couple of program notes before we go. Be sure to watch This Week with Sam Donaldson and Cokie Roberts a little later this morning. And for the latest on what happens this Sunday, tune into World News Sunday. That's tonight.
I thought you were going to say Sam Roberts. And here's Kevin Newman with a preview of Good Morning America.
This week, Lisa McCree and Spencer Christian bring us a special sneak peek at Disney's new Animal Kingdom. Plus, Emeril Lagasse, that great chef, will be taking us to the New Orleans Jazz Festival and an interview with Whitney Houston. That's all this week on Good Morning America.
All that coming up. Thanks for spending your Sunday morning with us. Join us next week. You're going to join us next week?
I'll be back again. I'll be back.
I'm so excited.
Thank you, Bill, for having me.
Have a great week, everybody.
Take care.
We'll see you later.
Good Morning America Sunday has been a presentation of ABC. More Americans get their news from ABC News than from any other source. ABC News, now always on.